Hey there, folks. So let's talk about the process of putting a Game Boy Color inside of a Game Boy Pocket. Now, if you clicked on this video and you're expecting a, step A to B, A to Z tutorial of how to put a Game Boy Color inside of a Game Boy Pocket, that's not what this is. But we will go over the, overarching process and we'll discuss why I'm not going to give you the full A to Z. This is something that keeps coming up between me and a few friends. We have a recurring debate where we do all come to the same conclusion, but the fact that it keeps coming up tells me that none of us are really satisfied with the answer. And, I'm on the same page. I'm not satisfied with the answer. I don't know what the answer is. I don't even know if there's a right answer. So let me explain the situation and then we'll discuss the pocket color a little bit more. So more or less, this comes down to gatekeeping. And from an outsider's perspective, looking into another community, I hate whenever I see gatekeeping. Someone asks, hey, how do you do X? Someone else will reply, well, if you're asking that, you're clearly not capable of doing it. And it's like, yeah, that's not the right answer. That doesn't help anyone. But at the same time, someone who's asking a question phrased in a certain way demonstrates their lack of fundamental understanding. And more often than not, that sort of response, this is coming from someone who's been in the Game Boy community quite a while. That kind of response is coming from experience of seeing other people trying to attempt the same thing and then messing up and having to start over. Now, for context, I have a box full of Game Boys where someone, for the most part, tried to do something, got in over their head, and then had to give up. Now, I think a lot of people, had they kept those Game Boys instead of selling them, of course I bought them, they were cheap and I think I can fix them. I think a lot of those people would be able to, if they were to keep at the hobby, grow their skill level, I think they would have been able to repair those Game Boys eventually. I don't blame them for getting rid of them. Sometimes you get in over your head, and I will be honest, when I was new to the Game Boy hobby, there are lots of consoles that I did that to myself. Thankfully, the ones that I did keep, I have been able to repair so far, basically all of them. If there's one I've forgotten about, then, so be it. But whatever, that's not the point. The point is, and I believe everyone else who has used this particular method to make one of these consoles has kept that knowledge not necessarily secret, but we haven't advertised it per se. So, you could check my channel. There's hundreds of videos me showing you exactly how to do X mod, Y mod, Z mod, so on and so forth. But that's the point I'm trying to make. This project is the culmination of all of those mods that I've shown. I think that if you have the ability, if I tell you how I did this, just an overview concept, and you can, and you're sitting there thinking, oh, you just need to do this, cut that, connect this here, then you have the ability to make one of these and you don't need the documentation at all. And that's what I'm trying to get to. To reference an interview recently between Retro RGB and Shank Mods, they were talking about Shank's GameCube Joy-Cons, which if you've been on YouTube at all, you've probably heard of them. It's a fantastic mod. I love that mod. It's wonderful. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Shank himself, if you don't know, we are friends. We chat every now and then. He's actually sent me some of the hardware that I've shown off on the channel. He goes into detail on this in their interview, and I highly recommend watching it. But it comes down to this. He published the overview of how he did it, but he never got into the nitty-gritty of, I need to solder this wire here, I need to solder this wire here, I need to cut it here, I need to connect this up, glue this together, that sort of thing. He never got into the nitty-gritty because he feels that the people who are able to complete that mod already have the background understanding necessary to be able to come up with that on their own, such that they don't need the instructions. And I feel similarly with this. To use his words, I don't want to lead people down the wrong path. I don't want to show off. I've said this before, and I think I even said this in my own interview with Retro RGB, but I've been soldering for decades. So when I show off a project on my channel, such as this, which is a US copy of Pokemon Crystal inside of a Japanese copy of Pokemon Crystal, works perfectly fine, by the way. The case was damaged, and anyway. I can do stuff like this almost in my sleep because I have a lot of soldering experience. I've been doing this for over a decade. Now, when I show it off on my channel, you don't necessarily see my experience showing through. You just see me putting an iron to this thing, the joints connecting, and then everything just works. There's context to that. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is there is a certain level of gatekeeping that we're doing, and I don't know whether it's appropriate. I've been leaning towards yes. I think that level of gatekeeping is appropriate for a project like this, because at the end of the day, what can you tell me what the difference in functionality between these two consoles is? And if you said, no, I can't, because there isn't any, then you'd be right. These do the exact same thing. Literally, the only difference, aside from the backlight kit, I know this has an older backlight kit. We can swap that out, no problem, and it would be equivalent. But that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant to the mod. The only difference is that this is in a more aesthetic case, I think. Functionally speaking, it's actually less functional because I had to use a pocket. This thing is using AAA batteries now, which means my battery life is going to be god-awful, and realistically it is. I only get a few hours out of this thing before I got to pop new batteries in. It goes down to a stream I made a little while ago about why the Pocket sucks. Doing this mod makes a Game Boy Color inherit a lot of the problems that the Pocket had, which Nintendo had fixed by making the Game Boy Color in the first place. So I don't think it's on the same level as like a backlight kit. And you know, I've shown off plenty of videos on backlight kits. It's not there. Basically, you know, it's kind of lost my train of thought there, but I don't know. I want you guys to tell me. The whole reason I'm making this video in the first place is because I want to share my thoughts on this and gather opinions and have a discussion. Do you think it is appropriate that I share all of the documentation on something like this? For context, the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Pocket both have full schematics available. The Game Boy Color schematics are fully reverse engineered by a gentleman named Gatekeeping. He does fantastic work. It is 100%, might not be 100% accurate, but it is accurate enough. As far as I can tell, the wiring is 100% accurate. The components, it's a little bit more difficult because, you know, capacitors, it's kind of hard to measure them, so on and so forth. But everything you need is there. The Game Boy Color, on the other hand, we've had internal confidential documents leaked decades ago. Nothing recent. They've been there for a very long time, and at this point, it's more of a gray area. I can't link it, or at least I don't think I can, and I'm not going to take the risk, but I'm sure if you search for it, you'll be able to find it. With those two sets of documents in hand, you have all of the information you need to take this console and put it inside this one. Now, all three of these consoles are running the same game, but you might notice this one doesn't work because this one's just a regular Game Boy Pocket. This one can't run not Pokemon. This one can't run Crystal Clear. Yes, it's a Pokemon game, but that's not part of the title. So let me get to the meat of the content that I'm probably confident a lot of you clicked for. Let's talk about how I did the Pocket Color. Let's take a look at these two motherboards. I have a Game Boy Color motherboard and a Game Boy Pocket motherboard. Now, if you look at these, you might notice from the cart slot up, there is a lot of similarity between these two consoles. Now, we have the CPU dead center. There's a few components here and there. Link port, volume, amplifier, system RAM, screen DC regulator, screen connector, and on the Game Boy Color, everything is the exact same. We have CPU dead center, audio amplifier, volume wheel, link port, system RAM, screen DC regulator, screen connector. The only differences really are, instead of having a power switch in the top right, the Game Boy Color has IR LEDs, and instead of having a contrast wheel in the top left, Game Boy Color has a power switch, which, by the way, the Game Boy Color does have a contrast wheel. It's right there. It's the exact same. VR2. VR2. They serve the same purpose. It's just this one you only need to adjust from the factory, whereas this one you need to adjust whenever your batteries start getting low. Anyway, besides the point, look at that. They're basically the same from the top end. Now, if we look a little bit closer, let us look at the audio circuit in particular. We have amp MGB. This is a custom piece of silicon that Nintendo had made for the Game Boy Pocket. This is the audio amplifier chip. It takes the signals from the CPU, makes sound come out of either that or that, and it is controlled by that. If we look at the Game Boy Color, we have literally the exact same chip, taking the exact same audio signals from the CPU, getting controlled by the exact same audio wheel, getting pumped to the exact same speaker that's missing on this particular motherboard, or headphone jack. And speaking of headphone jack, let's look at those. You might notice these have the exact same headphone and DC jacks. Even the DC-DC regulator is pretty similar. The difference is some of the screen voltages, but if you're using a backlight kit, that doesn't matter because these backlight kits don't use those screen voltages. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down, you know, you can sever all this stuff on the bottom. Look at how few components there are on the bottom compared to the top. Same thing on the Game Boy Pocket. We can splice those together pretty easily. It's really not that much wiring. It's a lot less than you might think. Let's look at my my mod here. If you look at the top, it's kind of hard to see because I have that opaque 3D printed plate in there, but I will turn it off here. Pop the card out. Look at that. We got IR LEDs. We've got link port, volume. All of that works just as you'd expect. Pull the battery compartment out, pop a battery out. We've got, look at that, MGB LCPU. Why do you think it says MGB when we have Game Boy Color in the top? It's because it uses two boards. Now, before, quick tangent, before anyone gets upset about me cutting up Game Boys, I will tell you that neither of these Game Boys worked when I started this mod. Now, at least one of them does, and I will share more details on this later, but the other one works now too. It's a process. I think it's relatively easy if you have that background knowledge, and if you don't have the background knowledge required to do something like this, you probably haven't been able to figure it out. And I think that's all right, because like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to lead people down the wrong path. I don't want to show you, hey, we got to start by cutting this board in half. Well, if you start something you can't finish, and the first step is cutting the board in half, you now no longer have a working Game Boy. You're not going to have an easy way to salvage that. So you guys tell me. That's the whole point of this video. I'm trying to come forward with where I'm at, and let's discuss it. Do you think it's appropriate for me to share my full documentation? For even more context, I filmed the entire process of making this thing. I am not done with it yet. There are still a few more mods I want to do. For example, both of these Game Boys have USB-C rechargeable internal batteries. I'd like to bring that forward to this thing, and I have the parts to do so. I just haven't yet. And once I get this to a stage where I consider it complete and get all that finished, I was gonna have a debate. You know, should I publish that documentation? And so that's where we're at now. I'm sure a fair bit of you are like, yeah, heck yeah, publish that. That's 6 hours of content I can sit through and watch when I should be working or doing something else. And you know, I feel you. Yeah, that's it's probably what I might end up doing in the end. But to the other people who want the documentation, I don't want to have to talk over that, to figure out how to do something like this, I'm sorry, but that's where we're at. There isn't any public documentation. Now, ever since I showed this thing off, as far as I know, I am one of the first people to do this specific mod with this method. As soon as I showed it off and mentioned, you know, hey, I took a Game Boy Pocket, I took a Game Boy Color, cut the Game Boy Color, cut the Game Boy Pocket, spliced them together. There were like 3 other people who, like, within the next few weeks made their own. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that is the appropriate way to handle a mod like this. That doesn't add any actual functionality. It's just cool. It's just something to show off. It's just something that gets you likes on Instagram or upvotes on Reddit. I think the people who can figure it out do, because they have the ability to build something like that. Now, I'm not trying to preclude the people who are almost there. They just need that extra little boost. You know, pop on the Game Boy Discord, search it. I'm sure you'll find it. I no longer have it linked because something I don't want to get into. That's not the point of this video. There are people there who will help you out. You know, you just ask. All they ask in return is that you do the research, you do the planning. If you come forward with the bare minimum, you have a plan, and you feel confident that you're able to do this, you know, present your plan. People will peer review it and tell you, yeah, you're on the right path, you got this in the bag, or no, you should probably look into doing something like that. And that's the idea. We're not telling people how to do it. We just don't want to hold hands because we don't want to see more Game Boys cut up from people who aren't able to complete the mod. Now, that brings me back to the question I asked at the beginning. Is this the right way to handle this situation? I don't know. I believe it is, because I believe that if we let people figure out some of the nitty-gritty on their own, you know, they might come up with something that's a little bit more creative than the solution that we had come up with. They might come up with a better way to do this. They might come up with an extra feature, or, you know, an easier way to do this. Or, like, while we're doing it, to my knowledge, I am the only person who made one of these with intact IR blasters. I can use Mystery Gift on this thing. Granted, I don't know anyone else who has a Game Boy Color. I don't know anyone else who plays Pokemon, so I don't have anyone to Mystery Gift with except for myself. But it works. I haven't seen anyone else do that. So I think that is the point. We give out just enough information to let people figure it out on our own, and then we can share ideas, share knowledge, combine our abilities, and grow as a community. Do you disagree? Sure, that's fine. But let's discuss it. Let's talk about why that might be the case, and, you know, let's hash it out together. I think I'm doing the right thing by not sharing this stuff. I could be wrong. Let's work on it. I hope that wasn't too rambly. I hope I got to the point. This was something I really wanted to get into, like 5 to 8 minutes. Obviously, it's closer to 20, but there's a lot of stuff I had to cover, and I hope it was intelligible. Otherwise, that's all I've got. You will probably be seeing this more. I know it's come up quite a few times already. I've had people asking me about it, and no, I'm not selling it. No, it's not available for sale. No, I won't make you one either. But, you know, if you do the bare amount of research and you need someone to fact check, to proofread your plan or something, join the Game Boy Discord. There's people there who've already figured out and who'd love to help. I lurk there still occasionally, and I might even chime in. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. hit me up in the comments, and catch us all next time.